Hold up.
I'll share with you guys first and foremost what was the craziest for me about this meeting with Gary, because I think every single one of us can take something from it. And it kind of like, I don't know if you guys noticed, it messed with me. If you saw my video about it, I was like, whoa, that just challenged everything in the best way possible. I know some people don't love Gary Vaynerchuk. I personally have a lot of respect for him, but I've also seen him in person twice now. And I will say, like, who he is in person is different than who he is on his videos. So on his videos, you know how he's like hustle, 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 harsh, in your face, tearing people apart, but they don't show him like rebuilding the people afterwards. He just seems very intense. And when you meet him in person, like there's this like softness to him, and he like really, really cares, which was not something that I expected at all. Okay, so let me take a peek real fast I'm gonna pull up my notes. But yeah, does anyone have questions first? Maybe yes, maybe no. Okay. So I went to this wanting to obviously walk away with some knowledge, meeting people who were at where I am or further ahead or whatever. I wanted to hear from Gary, and so lots of people were asking really great questions, and I was like the second to the last question. And my question was, I kind of shared with him and everybody, first and foremost, I repped SMU. So I shared with them, like, I was like, who here has struggled with hiring a social media manager or a copywriter or a virtual assistant? And like everyone in the room raised their hands. And I was like, well, my gift to all of you is that I match make people with my students. I'd love to set you all up with my students. They're great. They're awesome. They're trained in by me. They're some of the best in the world. You know, you're not going to be finding it's harder to find a flake in my group, so I gave them all my website, and then they're all going to fill out the matchmaking. So that was kind of cool. That was like the first thing I did. Woo! So now everyone has heard of you, which is kind of fun. So then what happened was there were a lot of questions that were asked, and I'll share with you guys some of the value that I got from that. And then we can dive into like individual situations. Let me just make sure I don't have any calls after this. I don't think I do, which will mean we have time, which is fun. Okay, yeah. I don't have a call until, well, I have a call at 5:15. That's okay. Okay, so I asked Gary, first I told him a little bit, he knows a little bit about me from some of the things that he said. I've kind of gotten the idea that he has maybe kind of followed me a little bit, which is kind of cool. But at the same time, it was like, so he looked at me and he just looked at me like this when I walked up, and I was like, uh-oh, I know what's about to happen. You know what I mean? And I was like, I'm Rachel. He's like, yes, Rachel, I know who you are. And I was like, okay. And then I was like, oh, I don't even want to ask my question now because I know what he's going to do. And so I shared with him, I was like, I have two sides of my business. I have the agency, the university. This is what each of them look like. This is where things are going. And I was like, well, here are my goals. And I put my big goals out there. And so let me just explain. My goals were my revenue goals, my number goals, my goals for like everything being bigger. And I was like, based on your experience of being an entrepreneur for so long, how do I get there faster? And he just looked at me and he started shaking his head. And he was like, I don't like faster. He's like, why would you want to get there faster? And I'm like, oh, dang it. So then he starts to dive in, and he was like, he called me Rach the whole time. Rach, the thing is, like, with the interactions that we've had, because we've had interactions on social and stuff, he was like, everything that you've been talking about lately has been so arbitrary, which I thought I knew what it meant, but I had to like look it up just to double check. So he basically was like, it feels like all your goals are just like, you just put it together and you're like, this is my goal. And you don't really have a reason for it. And he's like, so some people would say like, you've done a lot of big things already, right? Like, but you don't feel like it, do you? And I was like, no. And he said, that's because you assigned numbers to your success and your goals. And what happens when you just create a number and put that number out there, it doesn't mean anything to you. So the moment you hit that number, you're like, okay, now what? And he said, the thing is, that's going to happen over and over and over in your business. You are going to hit every single number and every bigger number and find a bigger sense of emptiness. And I was like, He's like, I know that there's a part of you that, and this is like what everything was created on. He's like, that cares about like helping people and supporting people and all of this. So why are your goals not talking about that? Why are your goals about, I want this many employees, or I want this much revenue, I want this and this? He's like, because if you want 500 or 700 employees or whatever, you could do it next year. He's like, that's not hard. He's like, but then everything that you're doing is based on bringing on 500 to 700 people onto your team. And he's like, so what happens if you hire 500 to 700 people and it was totally wrong for your business? What happens if you hire 500 to 700 people and you don't like the people that you hired, right? Isn't this crazy, you guys? So he's like, what happens if you build out this team and you're like, wow, now I have 500 to 700 people and I don't like any of them. Like, this stinks. I didn't preserve those goals and the real goals, like the why behind everything and what my purpose was. And I was just like, oh, that stinks. But it was such a good moment because I was able to finally recognize, like, okay, I've been pretty aligned with like my heart and my why for a long time. But at the same time, when you start to surround yourself with other like high achievers, they start to put like numbers in front of you over and over and over, and you hear it. And it's like, okay, well, when are you going to hit 100,000? When are you going to get your 2 Comma Club award? And things just keep like, the pressure builds. And finally I realized like I need to almost like have a disdain for the numbers in a way, if that makes sense, if those numbers don't align with the why. Like, who cares if we get to 1,000 members in SMU and people aren't thriving? Like, who cares? It doesn't matter. I could get to 10,000 in the next year if I wanted to spend enough and make it happen. Shelly, I'm not mad at him anymore. It's a great contribution. Yep. It's like, it was so crazy because it was like, whoa, I can do those things, but that doesn't matter. My goal is to help every single one of you guys to build your business and get to a place where like your life is, you're able to discover your why. For some of you guys, it might be the first time where you're like, whoa, I'm pulled out of the survive mentality. And now I have the ability to thrive. What do I want life to look like? So it was just crazy. He's like, and this is, I see it over and over again. This is why people get yachts and mansions and they can't stop taking pictures and videos with them. He's like, it disgusts me. He's like, I hate it because I'm like, I know that person just hit the number and feels empty. And now they're trying to figure out like, what do I do? Do I throw up a yacht? Does that give me the good picture, that I put on social media? And then I get that hit of dopamine when I post the picture. I was like, that is so good. Isn't that amazing, you guys? The other thing that he talked about that was really, really great was to own your mistakes. Just own them. And he was like, I challenge you tonight to talk about what you've learned from this. That's why I went live with the video before I was even ready. Just went for it. I was like, okay, I'll just talk about it. I haven't even processed this yet because he told me to. And it was just so nuts because I want you guys to think about that too. It's good timing with this level up call because it's like, what does the next level look like? Is your only next level money? Because I will tell you guys that money doesn't change anything. It changes some things, but it doesn't change this, doesn't change the relationships you have. If your marriage is struggling, if your friendships are struggling, if you hate your kids because they're so naughty right now, money doesn't fix it. So what happens though is that we chase that thing, that number, because we think that happiness is hiding behind it, and it's not. So it was really, really a good talk. I think he was expecting me to fight. I didn't. I just listened and I was like, yep. I got quiet really fast. And I was just like, yeah, you're totally right. And he's like, okay, awesome. And so we got to chat about that. And then he gave me a kiss on the cheek and he gave me the biggest hug. He was like, "Aw, Rach." Like it was a very fatherly thing. Like it was very adoring in a way, like he was like, "I don't want you to be chasing something that doesn't bring happiness." And it just like brought me back to like, why am I doing everything that I'm doing? What is my why? Like, do I want to teach my kids that they can build billion-dollar empires? Because I don't know that many happy billionaires. Might it happen? Maybe. But I don't want to teach my kids that that's the goal. I want to teach them that they can find something that they love and do it. And that you can, find and build your life on that foundation of finding something you love, helping other people. Just, it was crazy. So it was exactly what I needed. The cool thing is like, I walked away like, oh, I just been kicked in the gut and now I have to handle this and deal with this and process and get back to like my foundations of what the why are, because I never had big enough goals, if that makes sense, in a different way, meaning I didn't know that I would be able to get to this point. Obviously, like I wanted it. I was like, this is something I want, it's great. But then what happens when all of a sudden, like in life, you have what you want and you need both. And you're like, whoa, this wasn't on the table before. This is like brand new. This is totally different. And now it's like, okay, now what? There's not some house I can buy that's going to make me happier. Does that make sense? Like a bigger house just means that you're sitting at the table with the same people, the same relationships, the same board games, the same conversations, like, but now you don't have the stressful things to talk about, if that makes sense. But anyways, it was so good. But I wanted to share that with you guys because as we start to talk about like what each of our level ups look like, it might be different for every single one of us, and mine definitely is changing this week. And I'm actually really excited about this because now it's time to really get realigned. Perfect timing though, right? Like, oh, he caught me before it started slipping into everything that I do. I'm so happy. Okay, so kind of cool. I'll also share with you guys some different feedback that he gave because all of this was about leveling up your business and very applicable to what we do for ourselves and what we do for our clients. So first and foremost, you guys can actually take notes because this is going to kind of turn into a training / and then we'll jump into like a little mini Q&A at the end where we can talk about things. Number 1, ego. Ego is the scariest thing. He said that probably 15 times. Ego is the scariest thing in the entire world. And when he sees ego hit somebody, he's scared for them. He's very scared and he doesn't want to work with them. And he sees their whole business model being compromised. I love that. He said that ego is something that tells him someone will not be successful because in their mind, they will never be successful. And I saw a lot of ego in New York. Like there was a lot of ego, especially in the lobby of the hotel, just unhappy people. And so ego happens when a couple of different things happen. Number 1, you don't have people to call you when you're wrong, call you out on stuff in a loving way. Not many people could have said what Gary said to me and it would have like actually sunk in, you know what I mean? And I would have listened and everything. But also not many people saw like the ego starting to creep in just a little bit, right? Like just a little. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, that's totally true. Shoot. Oh, okay. So not having people that you're surrounding yourself with who you have given a place to give you honest feedback, that doesn't mean it's everybody. And that doesn't mean it's also only the negative people in your life. Like for me, my husband, Paul, can confront me on anything because he's been given that trusted place. Now he doesn't really because, well, I don't know. He's not the first person to call me out because usually I can find those things pretty fast. And I'm like, what just happened? What did I do? But the other thing is the moment that you think that you are better than somebody. I don't know if this has happened to any person. The moment that you think like, do they know who I am? Like they don't know who I am, or, I am like the greatest thing. And I see it even sometimes in SMU when we're serving our clients, we get super upset. Anyone here ever experienced that? You don't have to admit it if you don't want, but you start to serve your clients and you're like, I am the greatest thing on the face of this planet. I can give the best work, and you get upset when your clients have questions or thoughts and they're not even nightmare clients, but you are like, do they know who I am? Like, or what I do? And you just, that's where that ego starts to hit. Gary still practitions. He still deals with clients as in his own words, but with some editing. He says, I deal with clients pooping on me every day. And because I don't have ego, it can keep me, it can keep me productive. And I learned to deal with it. I love that. I absolutely love that. The moment that you think that you're too good to handle some feedback, even from clients or, somebody who's questioning you, ego's hitting. It's scary. Okay. Number 2, whoever is closest to the customer wins. So if you are relying on anything, Amazon for selling products, affiliates for driving your sales, somebody else for referring you traffic, an agency that you are white labeling work for, somebody who you are partnered with, who they're sending you their clients. All of those things are so dangerous because those people are closer to your clients than you are. Even every single one of us needs to realize sometimes Facebook is closer to us or to our clients than we are, and we need to diversify because we don't want any one thing to be a sticking point between us and our clients. Whoever is closest to the client wins. Same thing goes when you start to bring on people into your business. Gary said, my biggest thing is I don't give away enough of an equity that it would hurt me if they walked with all of that. Because whoever is closest to the clients, there are opportunities for ego to hit them and for them to walk with it. He also did predict that Amazon is going to walk with everybody's customers. That's crazy, right? That Amazon is going to shut out all sellers and private label everything industry by industry, one at a time, and they are going to beat out absolutely everybody. So anyone who's selling on Amazon needs to get their clients off of, or their customers off of Amazon as soon as humanly possible, because it's dangerous when Amazon is the liaison between you and a client or a customer. Okay, pretty cool so far? Yeah. Number 3, I love this, and I'm super, super excited that you guys are on this call for this one alone. The reason that you build a brand is so that you do not become commoditized. Commoditized, a really good way of explaining this is commoditizing products or something becoming commoditized basically means anybody can offer it. And that's where you get into like the price, the racing to the bottom of the price ladder, where people are like, oh, well, I saw this thing that offered it for $50 a month. Why would I pay you $150? And you're like, wait, I was lowballing. So when you build a brand, this is huge for everyone, especially for business owners and practitioners. You have to build your brand because anybody could come in and disrupt the market at a commodity level. But there's a reason that people pay more for brands. Okay, let's play this real fast. Anyone here a fan? I'm just going to think of like overpriced brands. Anyone here a fan of like Lululemon? Some people. Anyone here a fan of iPhones or MacBooks? Yeah. Anyone here a fan of like Louis Vuitton? Are any of those that much more quality than their competitors? Not necessarily mainstream, but are there options that are cheaper that are the same level of quality? Yeah, totally. If I'm going to be real, so I'm like a diehard Mac fan, and I love Apple. I love everything that they do. But get this, I will straight up say that Androids are better for functionality. I just saw a commercial and they said it was the Google Pixel. They said get unlimited selfies, like you will never run out of space. And I'm watching the commercial and they get to the end and they're like Google Pixel. And you want to know what went through my head? Because I've had that issue so many times where I run out of space for pictures. I was like, oh man, I wish it was Apple, because then I'd get it. It's like, isn't that just so crazy? When it's something that's better, it's probably cheaper. So what happens when you build a brand is you reduce your risk of being commoditized. Anyone here can, who here can name by name, let's say, the brand of flour that you buy? There's probably only one person on here that might be able to, and she can't. So anyone here? Megan knows her brand of flour. Anyone else? Does anyone else pick the same brand of flour every single time? Megan does. Who here buys the cheapest flour that you find on the shelf okay. Who here price shops according to, once they've decided, okay, this is organic and unbleached and all of that, but then you still price shop between the brands? Yep. Okay. So that is a great example. Flour is commoditized. A lot of parts for your car are commoditized. What else is commoditized? Like Post-its. I'm going to buy the cheap version of whatever I can of Post-its. I'm going to buy cheap pens until I decided that I'm not going to, because a brand sells you an image or an idea. Let's say, for example, the let's say, for example, I'm trying to think of something real fast. Vitamins. Vitamins are branded, but they matter. That really, really matters. So like, let's say, for example, my services versus someone who's pretty new and is like, I'm pretty new, but you know what? Couple people. So what is the major difference between our services? This is going to kind of shock you. There are some areas that I'm an expert in, but there are a lot of people in SMU where I'm like, you guys are better than me. You're way better than me. Like, you could go in and rock any brand, like you could go in and transform any business. Like, I'm pretty good at most of those things. Sometimes I'm really good, but the reality is the only reason that I'm able to charge more is because I have built a brand. Does that make sense, you guys? And people are like, I don't care if that person I don't know is better sometimes, right? They're like, I don't care if that person's better. I want the person who's branded. When it comes to my videos, like, I could hire some kid out of high school and be like, hey, will you come shoot my videos? But I'm like, no, I want Marley. I want D-Rock. I want these people who have built brands because why? We buy into it. Every human does. We all buy into brands at some level or another. So, Georgia, we'll see you later. I'll make sure to get the replay up. Yes, and then loyalty is huge. So the reality is every person wants to have their needs met, but they also want a level of like service and excellence where they feel taken care of. The difference between, let's say, for example, babe, what are two cars that are the same brand? Toyota and I don't know cars. Oh, okay. Well, he has headphones in. Dane could help. Honda and Acura, Lexus and Toyota. There we go. That's the one I was thinking of. Lexus and Toyota. What is the major difference between the two? There are some, there's leather seats or an automatic car starter, but the reality is the logo is the difference. More like 20K. It's ridiculous, right? So there are some upgrades, but you have to pay more for the upgrades, just like you would for a fully loaded Toyota. The reality is some people just want to say, I have a Lexus. And some people want to walk into the Lexus dealership and feel special. So that's I think that's like that alone. If you take nothing else from your time at SMU, remember that and ingrain it into your head and be like, that is everything. So every person here should at least say, like, I'm going to build a brand. That doesn't mean you have to have the most followers. Doesn't mean you have to have the perfect website. It means that you're selling the idea of the recognition and the brand and the service and everything. We can all start with that. That's good enough. Okay. Number 4, I love this one. He said, I see so many people trying so hard to grow Instagram famous, yet they aren't replying to every single comment on every single picture that they have at this level. So it's showing that they don't care about their followers. That one hit me. I was like, oh my gosh. Ugh. He said, every single person, if you are not happy with your level of following, you should be replying to every single comment yourself. I know that we do a lot of that for our clients, but I think that that's a package that we should be talking to them about. It's one of the best ways to grow because that's relationship-based versus growth hacking based, which is not my favorite thing in the world. I know that relationships last. Pretty cool. But then he also said something else where he was talking about celebrities who did not want to join Instagram as it was starting to get big. And he talked to some of them. The reason that they didn't want to join is because there were all these like Instagram influencers who had millions of followers. And they were like, well, what if I join and I only have like 100,000 followers? And he was like, who cares? Join now and grow it and it'll be fine. But a lot of celebrities were like, they were consulting with him about it, and they were like, I don't want to join Instagram and have these punks that have more followers than I do. So I'm just going to not join that right now. And so because of ego, right? Ego is the enemy. Because of ego, they didn't join Instagram. And so by the time they joined, they had significantly less followers than other people. And a lot of them are struggling now to stay relevant because where do we like to keep up with our celebrities? Often Instagram. So that's kind of huge. I thought that was really interesting. He also shared that he is not scared to go on any platform and not have any followers. When he first started Instagram, he had I think he said 30,000 followers when he first started it. And he was like, wow, I have less followers on here than everywhere else. And he just had to go with it. And then when he hired D-Rock, they went up to like, what, 400,000. And then with, just recently they're at millions now of followers. So he said, you just can't let your ego get in the way about building. I think this is huge for us, right? We sometimes just have to plow through and still just go on every platform and be like, who cares? Like, who cares if I don't get any followers? You don't know what's going to happen on that platform. That platform could go bankrupt tomorrow, or who knows, maybe the one where I seem small, mine goes viral and all of a sudden I'm the leading influencer on fill in the blank, WeChat or whatever. Okay. This is phenomenal. For those of you who are at the level up stage where you have to start hiring, the biggest mistake people make with hiring. Anyone want to guess what it might be? I'm going to sip some coffee. I want to see some guesses come in the chat. Or you can talk too if you want. I got my nails like long and glam again, but I didn't go too long this time so I can still type. It's just a little tough because I'm like this. But when I went to the Coldplay concert, I got them super long. Does anyone remember like how long they were? They were like coffin nails, like crazy long. And I was like, okay, cut them all like that night after the concert. Okay, let's see. Hiring your friends, cheap labor. They don't talk to enough people because they don't like the process. Not hiring the right person right away. Hiring the wrong person. Onboarding. Okay, there are 3 mistakes that people make in hiring. Gary said he has hired plenty of the wrong people. And you will hire the wrong people. There's nothing you can do to avoid truly hiring the wrong people. It will happen. Fire them. So here are the 3 mistakes that you can make when you hire, whether you're hiring a VA, somebody to manage your social media, somebody to assist you in processes or create graphics for you. Number 1, or as he said, you effed up when, but he really said it, of course, because it's Gary. When you waited too long to hire because of your ego, right? When you waited too long, lots of people do this. I waited too long to hire. I did. And I know that. Number 2, then you hired the wrong person. But that's only 1/3 of the equation. Mistake number 3 is then you waited too long to fire them. He said he sees people who hold on to staff that are wrong for their business literally for years because they feel bad or they're uncertain or they're like, well, I asked them to move or they just had a new baby. So he said that only 1/3 of the equation is actually hiring the wrong person. So you messed up, effed up as Gary would say, when you waited too long to hire. So now you're in a pinch. So now it pushes you and it puts pressure on you to bring someone on, right? Number 2, then you hire the wrong person, but then number 3, fire them. He goes, I've had people where they walk in and by lunch they're out. And he's like, it's tough, but if they walk in and they say something where you're like, whoa, you are so wrong for my business. He's like, let them go because that's just a sample of what's to come. And they can cause a lot of damage in your business. Okay. This one is so fun. If you want to streamline, oh my gosh, did I drop my phone? Yeah, it's sad. Sorry. I just saw that there's like a big chip on my case. Oh, I like that case. Oh, well. Okay. So I don't remember which number we're on, but every person for their business, some of this won't apply to us, but I know some people have like side hustles to your side hustle, or you have like a software service that you're working on. Maybe some of you have clients that you need to coach on this. Create an unbelievable how-to video. Unbelievable. So it's an explanatory video that is less than 2 minutes and is absolutely phenomenal. Less than 2 minutes. It walks them through A to Z of the process of what it looks like to work with you or your software or whatever it is. He said that makes all the difference because there were people who were talking about their business and it took them like 5 minutes to even get to what their business was about. And it was like, whoa, this is rough. He's like, how do you explain that on a sales page? And they're like, I don't know. We kind of just like do. But he's like, oh, you're losing everybody then. Okay. So those were my top and absolute favorite takeaways. There was one more, and I'll see if I can remember it before this call is done. Oh, here it is. Who here has ever thought, oh, it would be so easy to build my Instagram if I were gorgeous like a celebrity? Guys, don't be shy. Awesome. Dane's being honest. Carlos is like, heck yes. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. Every person, right? Every single person has that thought. Gary said 4 to 7 years ago, that was true. Today, that is not true. Beautiful people are a dime a dozen now on Instagram, at least, because anyone can look beautiful with Instagram thanks to filters and lighting and selfies and Photoshop and all this crazy stuff. And people are way more Photoshopped than we even realize. So yeah, be different was what Gary said. You got it, Megan. He was like, be different. People want to see different. Like I definitely have had that temptation of like, I want to look like a 10 on my Instagram, but that's not my day to day. And I could schedule a photo shoot once a week where I look good the whole week and or it looks like I looked good the whole week, but that's not who I am. And the best way that I can stand out is to have my hair up in a bun and maybe have no makeup on or whatever, or wearing a ratty t-shirt with like stains on it. Actually, this one does have, yeah, like everything I own. But like, just thought that was amazing. He said, being beautiful is now a commodity. A brand is more valuable than being beautiful. I love that. All right. So questions. We can hop into a Q&A or we can dive into specific situations. Probably Q&A style might be good. Everyone ready to go to the next level in your business? Who says, oh yeah, branding myself a little bit is going to be a huge part of that process? Yes. Awesome. So cool. Okay, let's dive into just Q&A. We will have like 30 more minutes before I hop into my last client call of the week. Okay, I'm going to hop into the chat first. I am going to BNI as a guest next week. Yeah, I went to a BNI once and I got the sense I could have gotten a lot of local clients. Okay, so the biggest thing that I wish that I had done was stack my wins at the BNI. Anyone who's not familiar with BNI, it's like a business networking, I don't know what I stands for. Someone knows what it is. International Business Networking International. Yeah. So it's basically this meeting that you go to. It's sometimes every week. I think it's every week. And it's usually super early. It's like 7 or 9 a.m. And you go, and then every person goes around and tells something about themselves. And then there's a teaching, and then you refer business to each other, which is really interesting. That's like kind of all that it is. The purpose of it is to like build really strong relationships in your community. Part of the reason that I haven't done those so far, Steph, is only because like A, I don't like waking up early, and B, I don't like waking up early and then trying to look good when I wake up early. Like it doesn't work for me. So I know that like as soon as I bring on the partner that I've been working on and who we will announce fully in the next few weeks, like I'm going to send him to BNI because he can wake up early. But the biggest thing that I found is that there's a super, super strong sense of loyalty. The last thing that they want is someone to come in there and try to get all the clients and then like leave. But when you're going to pick your BNI chapter, because you pick and each one has a different vibe, it's almost like sorority houses or fraternity houses. Each one is so different. So the one I went to, they were like boasting about their numbers in a good way. They were like, we've referred $17 million worth of business to each other from our networks, because then you tap into all of their networks. And if they know someone who needs social media, then if you're the only social media person there, you're going to be the first person that they think of. And with social media, you guys, like most people don't know somebody. I'm being dead serious. They only know agencies. So when you come in and you're like, oh, that's what I do, and I'm a person, and I'm a branded person, they're like, yes, I totally want to work with her. She seems great. She's personable. I talk to her every week. So the reality is you could generate a ton of business. Just do not go in there with the commodity mindset, because there are a lot of commodity-based small businesses there at BNI that I found where they're like, well, we're just a small roofing company. And I'm like, yeah, but do you know how much revenue we could drive over a year partnership? Like, yeah, but anyways, they don't think that way. They think about printers and like stickers on the side of a magazine or on the side of a car, and they think about like magazine printings. So if you can go in there and you can teach within the first couple of weeks that you join and teach something that like shatters their beliefs about advertising and marketing and where things are going for small businesses, then hands down, you could probably dominate all of their sales and their networks. So it is a very powerful strategy, just not for me. Maybe I have to find like a nighttime BNI one, then I'd do it. Especially if it was at like 1 a.m, I'd be like, that's perfect. Okay, let me sneak on up. Make sure I'm not missing anything. Is that helpful stuff? And if you have any other questions, let me know. But joining the chapter is the best way to get clients. Don't join once and then think that you'll be done. And you have to show up every single week. That's the big thing.
So Joanna mentioned that she had some comments about it, if she could hop on.
She's not shy.
Hi.
Hi.
So I'm part of BNI. I love it. When you go, I see a lot of people say, you know, this week I'm looking for this type of client, and I hate that. That doesn't work. I feel like what works best is like an in-person lead magnet. Like literally, like give your lead magnet vocally, and I feel like just give value, and like what can you do for them, right? Or not really what you can do for them, or value. Just value content. Don't even talk about what you do, who you are, anything. Stacking your wins is okay, but I would just give value, because then they're gonna want more. Like, who's the Steph girl? Oh my gosh, she knows so much. Like, I had no idea this and that. And then also, if you're going to join, make sure that there's power partners in there, so people who could easily refer to you. So if you're an SMM, I'm thinking like web developers, photographers for branding, etc. Don't join a small group. There's groups that are like 12, 15 people. That's not going to bring you a ton of business, because the bigger the group is, that's the more people that can refer to you. And then if you're joining as a visitor, I actually hired a social media manager for an event who was a visitor at my BNI, because I needed someone in there to help me out. So I also recommend that you do one-to-one meetings afterwards. If you find people that are either interested in you or you think they would be a good power partner for you in the future, meet with them so that they can get to know you. That's the entire the entire idea of BNI, right? Get them to know, like, and trust you so that they can refer clients to you. Because I'm not going to refer a client that's very dear to me to somebody that I don't know, because then that reflects poorly on me if you deliver poorly, right? But you can definitely get a ton of business just from visiting if you like follow up and you give value, and like you meet with the people that matter from the group that you think will bring you that business.
Thank you so much. That was really informative.
So cool. Steph's going to knock it out of the park. Totally. There are some chapters too. Join, I don't know if you're in a big one. There are some that are like 60 to 70 people. And even though it takes a long time to go around the room and listen to everybody's like little spiel, that's so much more valuable. Like, it's really, the energy in there is so cool. There's always something happening.
There's the one I'm going to is about 43. It's in Manhattan. And then the person that's connecting me is a video marketer. And he told me that the previous SMM actually opened up her own floor in Manhattan to run her social media management. She started off like we did in our house, and joining the group. So that's why I'm like super excited to kind of hop in. They have a void right now because she left. She went on to bigger pastures, and I'm really excited.
That's so cool.
That sounds like a good group to join. Yeah.
They want you. Okay, let me sneak on down to the next question. Mary had a question on IG. I'm so over the perfectly branded, always matchy feeds. Is it really wrong to have a more casual style? Okay, so let's all think about the really, really branded, super matchy feeds. Everyone here has had probably one person that you follow where they have that and you love it from them, right? Like, I mean, I can think of a few people, I can't remember any of their names, but like there are a couple of female bloggers where they have a light pink thing going on, and they were like some of the originals to do it. So you're like, oh yeah, I love that. That feels authentic, not copied. Does that make sense? Like, that was their thing and I love it. But then everyone else, it just kind of feels like it's like regurgitated. It's like, oh, it's been so done. The reality is the person who did it first, it looks great and it's awesome. But you want to see more personality. You don't want to see people necessarily hiding behind a brand. So I'm a huge fan of seeing authenticity, having more casual styles. You'll be seeing some like different work on my Instagram. Like it's going to just look a little different because I need to take it over with my voice. But at the same time, absolutely, like run it more casually. I mean, I will say since I went more casual with my Instagram, it's very casual right now. If anyone follows me, like it's very casual right now, very like snapshots of my kids, snapshots of like a normal day. It is not very like branded at all. And right now I'm at a low for engagement because unfortunately, like people don't always want to see casual. They want to see some like cool things and exciting things. I don't know, like just day-to-day snapshots aren't all you can have and if you want it to do really well. Okay, let's see. Aw, thanks, Dustin. I just saw your comment. Okay, so B and I, we answered that. Awesome. Bring a stack. Oh, yes. So bring a stack of business cards to B&I. I forgot about that. I made my business cards the night before and misspelled my email. And I was so devastated. And I was sitting there, you know, like when you're doing it on the cheap and you're like sitting there hand cutting all these cards and you're like, oh my gosh, I hate this. You literally want to have like twice the number of business cards that there are people because people will take extras for their friends and then you'll have more for next week. So that's like go create one and go run to FedEx and get it all done and make sure to double check everything because I didn't and then I had to throw them all away. So, okay. Elevator pitch too. The elevator pitch, I like what Joanna said about like offering value versus pitching because people want to. Okay, let me see what else. I'm getting ready to launch my new biz. This is Georgia, or rather my revamped biz in more specific niche. And I'm worried about backlash from past clients and other people in the industry who might not like my vision. How do you deal with the people who feel left behind when you level up? Ooh, I love this question. Everyone love this question. Okay, especially if you're worried about them indirectly attempting to sabotage you or talk behind your back in a small industry. I truly want to help them too and don't want them to feel slighted. How they feel, if you stay aligned with who you are through an up level, through taking on more business, through your business exploding, if you remain true to who you are, then how they feel is not your responsibility. That is huge. Because I will tell you guys, like there have been different points in my business that have been really hard where my business exploded and there were some friends, their business didn't explode and I didn't care. Does that make sense? Like I didn't, I wanted to be their friend still. I was like, I want to chat with them all day, every day. Let's talk about, like, I still have the same, you know, kind of like issues that happen in my business and I still have life and you still have a puppy. Like, let's still talk. But the reality is, there are people who will always feel slighted or offended or hurt or whatever it is. And unfortunately, you cannot let that affect you not up leveling. Like if you don't up level because you're worried about people being hurt, that's not okay. You have to just go for it. And the people who are meant to stay on this journey with you as friends and as peers are the people who support you through the up level. And sometimes you'll be surprised who doesn't. It's tough. But sometimes you're also really, really, really wonderfully surprised by who does. A couple people here were at SMU Live. All of the speakers, all the speakers were amazing, right? Those were some of my friends who stuck with me as we all grew at different rates, at different, you know, points in the journey. And they all ended up just having like crazy cool businesses too. And they have all been amazing friends. Like they'll message me and be like, hey, how are you? Just checking in, like how's pregnancy? You know, like I'll check in with them, see how they're doing. They're the people who remember my birthday, even though I don't remember birthdays. So just remember that there will be people that will drop off because they can't handle the pressure. And that's okay. It's hard. It's really hard when you realize that you leave people behind in the wake. But then some other really cool things happen through the process too. Like just this weekend, no, I'm sorry, it wasn't weekend. I'm so off on my days. While I was flying into New York, I got a message from a girl who was very mean to me in high school. Really mean, like mean girls mean. And I got a message from her and it was like super long and it was all just talking about how I've inspired her and how she's like she's been following my journey and all that. And I was like, that's really cool. No, we cannot be friends now. Like, but thank you so much for sharing that. Does that make sense? Like, so you appreciate like the people that are brought into your life at different periods. You never know who will fall off. You never know who will join the bandwagon. And just, yeah, if somebody gets weird, trust that feeling, like trust that gut feeling that they're getting weird about your business up leveling, without a doubt. Okay. Let's see. How do you expand as an agency if you're branded personally? I'll be honest, like I'm going to go through that right now. I think it's just going to be as simple as my agency. Like I just started talking about my agency. I started saying we all the time, even before there was a we. Like we at the agency love to do this, or like, the team. And then in time, like now I actually have a team and I'm bringing on a partner. So the biggest thing is I'll just be like, oh yeah, I'll funnel you on over to my agency. They'll take care of you. They're trained in by me. They manage all of the standards that I have for clients. And really, they're not going to know any differently. Does that make sense? Like, they're going to be like, oh, that's Rachel Pedersen's agency. Same exact thing for you, Jeannie. Was that Jeannie? Yeah, Jeannie. So when you expand into an agency, just act like nothing's ever different. Don't say like, I've switched everything and now you're working with my team. I'm not actually doing your work. It's like, I'm going to hand you on over to the agency, and you're in such good hands, and I'm excited to see where everything goes, so you just kind of funnel it on over and they won't know any differently. So, okay, let's see. Create my stalker's cheat sheet. I love that. What are the steps you recommend to personally brand? What's essential first? And especially if you don't have a ton of money off the bat, don't spend money on a brand until you are certain of who you are. Because if I had spent money on a brand before I was ready, I would have ended up with the same branding as everyone else, because that's what I thought we were all supposed to have as female entrepreneurs. So I almost had the same branding as like every other person, because I was like, I think that's what I'm supposed to have. But I was like, but why do I like navy blue so much? And why do I like gold? And I don't want super serious or like super sexy photos all the time. I want my photos to be like laughing and goofy, and I want to like do weird Snapchat videos and stuff. And so your branding actually kind of comes to you. And when you're building a personal brand, the reality is, and this was gold at SMU Live, right, guys? But your branding is one of two things. It's the intersection of what people are saying about you and what you want people to say about you. And there's a beautiful little overlap between those two things. Who's done the Post-it note exercise so far? Everybody's kind of got to do it a little more. Yeah. Okay. So when you start to figure out what people are saying about you, the people that you love and trust, not the haters, and then you figure out like what you want people to say about you, you find kind of where those two connect. This was Leonard Kim and Ryan Foland who suggested this, and it was awesome. But when you find that intersection, all of a sudden, like that's your beautiful branding. So like when I think about, it's pretty close. I haven't done the exercise still, like I need to too. But when my daughter explained how she wanted people to always remember her as she was nice, funny, and strong, I was like, oh, yeah, that like me too. Like that's totally what I want. And so that kind of made it clear to me, I should probably do this soon. Like I want people to think, oh, she was nice, she was funny, and she was strong. Or maybe smart instead of strong or whatever. I don't care. But that's super helpful. So don't spend money on it, and then just show up as you, and your branding will develop over time. And then before long, you'll be like, I have money for branding and I can put money towards this. And you can bring in someone who doesn't just throw together like a color palette. They actually understand what you're trying to portray. So I think that's super, super helpful. Let's see. Oh, Steph created a website. Awesome. I gotta scroll back up. Holly, no, I already answered that one. Joanna, I can't tell if marketing is getting more casual in general or if it's just casual in the space because we are entrepreneurs. I think everything's getting more casual, to be honest. Like I sense it, don't you? Like anyone remember like 5 years ago when you felt like you had to pretend in business, like pretend like you had no personality. You had to wear an outfit that didn't stand out. You didn't want to look too this, and it just felt like you had to blend in. I feel like that is changing in business in general. Like people are becoming more and more accepting of individuality and skill sets and who people are, Yeah. I will say, like, when I bring on the team, I want like a team of rock stars on the agency side, where it's like each person is like a real big personality in a different way. So it's like, oh, you know, this is our coder. This person's like, he's so smart and he geeks out on this and he geeks out on this. And like, I want personalities in each avenue. Why? Because I'm crazy. That'll be insane, but it'll be really fun. Okay. Nadia, I'm building my side business as I work full time, and I'm wary of my bosses, my brand before I transition out of the company. Okay, hold on. Ask that one more time. I'll scroll down and I'll make sure we get to that one. Of my bosses, my brand. Of my bosses knowing about my brand. What? Yeah, I'll need you to let me know what that is, because I've been through that too. So, Carlos, is it wrong to have a monetary goal in the beginning? Nope. Before considering other goals, my example is to make enough to bring my wife home. Monetary goals give you like an alignment with what that does. But one of the things that you have to say is, what does, let's say, $10,000 a month do? And how does life look different? Like, why 10,000? How does life look different? Do we hire a housekeeper to come in once a week? And why is that? Because is time really important to us? Do we want to free up some of our time? Do we want to spend more time as a family? Like, what is the goal? Because otherwise you're just like doing things. And I see that like on the flip side of life, like where people are like, well, I don't know. I don't really know what I'm doing in life. I just know that I was supposed to get a house and get married and then get a house and then have 3 kids and then get a car. And then, you know, and they don't really know why. And then they do each of those things and it's empty. Same thing for entrepreneurs. What do you want life to look like? Like, I know for me, I want a full table of kids, and I want to, not now, but like in 10 or 15 years, I want them to all sit down and we play games together and we're all laughing. And, you know, in 20 or 30 years, bringing their significant others home and we have Thanksgiving and it's big. Like, what do you want that to look like? And then assign the money, assign the money based on that. Okay. I love this. Joanna, your why has to be strong enough to be able to do that. Yep. The why. It all goes back to the why. All right. Let's see. Hubby and I, there you go. Casey will have to re-listen to this. That's okay. Post-it note exercise is where you basically write down, hey, I posted this right here. I could do it today. So you write down what you want to be described as, and you ask people that you trust to anonymously write the words that they believe describes you. So what you do is all of a sudden you end up with all of these blue Post-its of what people describe you as, and all these orange Post-its of what you want to be described as. And then you gather them all together and find groupings and clusters and what aligns. You have to have both blue and orange of a word or a description in order for it to be considered like, hey, this is a part of my brand that I should probably focus on. And then you can come up with supporting exercises to demonstrate that in your brand, which is pretty cool. Okay, I want to make sure I get to Naja's question. Yep. Okay. So I'll come back to Amanda's in 1 second. So the biggest thing is, because sometimes anyone here experience like building a side hustle and you're nervous about your bosses finding out a little bit? Yeah. I knew like if my boss, he kind of had a gut feeling, but I knew like if I were to be in his face about it, he'd be like, oh, I'm going to fire you. But the reality is I made the move so fast. And by the time they figured out that what I was doing, it was kind of like too late. And I just kind of like left. I gave them a month, but they didn't need a month and I didn't want to stay for a month. So the biggest thing is to stay quiet about it, maybe build under the business's name for a little bit. I know that's going to be kind of tough, but I understand your situation in particular. And what I would recommend is definitely like build up the brand. It's okay if you're you once you get on the phone with people. You might have to push a little bit harder because you can't be as visible as you. But build connections. That's where like a BNI might be super helpful, or building on LinkedIn where it's a little more, people don't know what you're doing exactly, right? Like nobody knows exactly what you're doing on LinkedIn at any given time. What else is kind of private? Facebook ads would not be unless you could exclude certain people. So BNI, in-person meetings, cold calls, cold emails, LinkedIn. All of those would be super, super helpful. So you're going to have to build a brand basically behind a brand first, until you're ready to go visible and be the face of it and jump in and say like, yep, it has to happen. Helpful? Okay. Amanda says, I'm getting stuck on what industries to target on LinkedIn. Then target all of them. Just avoid marketing. I have a list of ones that I avoid in the 10 days to 1K challenge. I avoid like attorneys because I personally have always had really bad luck negotiating contracts with them. Get that. They argue with me. So I'm sure everyone's like, yeah, I've experienced that too. But attorneys, marketing, I avoid creators, creatives, those types of things, at least to start. And then just target them all. And then you'll figure out what gels for you, what you like. Like, for example, I've learned that I don't love network marketing as clients unless I'm working with the big leaders. That's where I love it. That's where I'm like, I love working with the big leaders. I understand their business model. But if somebody's even like midway, it's stressful for me because I feel like I don't understand it, if that makes sense. So you'll find the industries that make sense. Steph, my bosses ended up finding out about my side business through some jealous coworkers. I told them that this does not interfere with my time at work, and the cost of living is hella expensive. So I was open and honest, and then unfriended all the coworkers I had on Facebook. Yeah, totally. Like, it still surprises me that like bosses are weird about side hustles, and I get that like you're scared of losing employees, but at the same time, like, have you guys ever tried to like influence somebody to make a decision by controlling them? I know that I've done that in past relationships where like you're like, you can't go out with your guys because I'm scared of what's going to happen if you go out with your guys. Does that prevent a cheater from cheating? Nope. Like, you can't prevent an entrepreneur from entrepreneuring by telling them to not have a side hustle. Like, they're just going to get sneakier. So the biggest thing I think is like, yeah, get out as soon as possible. Okay. If upscaling to agency, would you get everyone on board before you go for sales, or as it happens? As it happens. Definitely get sales. Sales is your lifeblood of your company. Don't even take out loans. Don't even take out credit cards. Don't even like bootstrap it all, because that will give you the freedom to be able to know who you need. And how you learn is where you start to see pressure on certain people. First, the pressure's all on you, right? Just you. Or you have you and maybe one other or something. All the pressure's on you. You're like, okay, where can I relieve some of that pressure? Boom, that's your first hire. So get the sales going, get the revenue going, bootstrap it, and then expand. Really good book for you, Gail, and anyone else who's in the same position is The E-Myth Revisited. The E-Myth is an amazing book. Have you read it? No? Okay.
No, not yet.
Okay. E-Myth is phenomenal for anyone who's scaling an agency and trying to figure out like where and when to hire. The other one as well, I'll put these both in the chat.
Oh, that'd be great.
E-Myth Revisited, and oops, that's sent only to Kim. Sorry, Kim. Okay, let's try that again. Traction. There are 2 traction books. One is Traction by Gino Wickman. And then one E-Myth, I believe it's E-Myth Revisited, but it's the one by Michael Gerber.
Sorry, can you hear me, Rachel?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. The reason I ask is because basically, I'm not just, whenever the sales come in, I'm not just going to give them to the next person. I've got a system of actually matching people, very much like when you're in recruitment. So I'm thinking, if I invite people to like, obviously give me their portfolios, what industries they like to work in, and all these other questions, I'm thinking, you know, as the sales come in, I can go, right, okay, do my little thing, and that will bring me up the person that would most match the client. So that's why I'm thinking, do I bring them on board before, or because if I put out there a job specifically, everyone will go, oh yeah, I'll do that. But I actually I want to match the person and the client. as close as I possibly can.
Ooh. Are you doing contractors or are you doing full-time employees? Big difference.
Contractors. I am going to
okay.
outsource it all out, and
Yep. Bring them on as you get the clients and have like
Yeah.
at least 2 of each industry talent in your back pocket. So like 2 people who specialize in nonprofits, 2 people who specialize in technology, 2 people who specialize in Pinterest, or 2 people who specialize in Instagram, however you're dividing that up. But don't bring them on until you have the work, because sometimes the work will ebb and flow in a way that really surprises you. But you can say, are you open to this?
Right, okay, that's great. Thank you.
Totally. Steph said, did you pick up your Post-its with your feet? Guys, that's so funny. At SMU Live, I'll be sharing the video of it soon. I actually have like really magically talented feet, and I can do more than pick up Post-it notes. So I'll share that video. It's pretty funny. Okay, let's see. I used to make alcohol-infused cupcakes. Where did that? There must have been a conversation I missed about that one. I'm like, that sounds fun. Okay, let's see. So continue building the president's SM as experience and then transition kind of thing. You've got it. Totally. And build a case study out of it. So the work that you've done, build it into a case study so that you can easily get clients. You have a great case study on your hands. All right. I cannot English today. You're doing great. I thought you meant like super royal. The president's SM. Okay, let's see. Maybe if they paid appropriately and treated their employees better, they wouldn't need a side hustle. True. When did y'all start the call? An hour ago. We're ending it right about now. So 2 books, they're in the chat. Traction by Gina Wickman and E-Myth Revisited. Those are good for people who are wanting to expand into agency model over the next year, or even over the next 3 years. Just, it's good to have in the back of your mind. I know some people have to go. I'm probably going to have to get some food. I'm hungry all of a sudden. I've got weird cravings too. So I think we're good. Any last questions? Otherwise, I'll take one more good question if there is one more. Otherwise, we'll be ready to hop on back into SMU. And one thing I want to challenge everybody to, make sure that you're giving as much as you're taking. So if you're asking a ton of questions in SMU, make sure that you're responding, because I know it's fun to hop on in and ask your questions and get them answered. The best thing that you can do in the world, and this is nuts too, I have no proof of this, but I know that it's true just based on my interactions in the group. The more that you interact with people in SMU or in any group, the more people see your posts when you put them up. It is my belief that every person has a different experience. Well, A, on Facebook in your newsfeed, but B, in your groups. That I've been seeing that starting to roll out. So the people I interact with the most, I see their posts the most. So if you want people to respond when you have questions, if you want vice versa, if you want to build relationships, go in there and make sure that you're answering questions, because then when you have questions, those people will have interacted with you, and those people are A, going to be more likely to answer because they like you now, but B, also now it boosts your stuff up in everybody's newsfeed and in their group newsfeed as well. So, okay. Any last questions? There were 2 more. What are good platforms for e-commerce? Depends on the market, that's such a vague question. That's a really vague question. I almost would want to break it down by the industry specifically. You can't go wrong with Facebook ads for almost any industry. Instagram does well for a lot of e-commerce, and Pinterest as well for a lot of e-commerce that has to do with females specifically, but it's not easy, and you have to specialize in Pinterest for e-com. What about white label agencies? Any recommendations? My best recommendation is to work with contractors and get the white labelers yourself, because white label agencies they're okay, but you're basically handing over the control of your social media. I don't think either party necessarily wins in a white label agreement. I mean, each person makes a little money, but each person has a little bit of work, so it's I don't know. I would recommend taking on a contractor for a set number of hours per month, and then they can work on as many clients as you want them to. Are we actually seeing Ashley? Hi. I know you're like so tired because it's the middle of the night, or it's 5 a.m., 6 a.m. Okay, let's see. What other questions? I think we're all set. That's so, Lakeisha, I'm so glad that you stayed. So, so glad. We're going to have even more fun too. This was a good call. What do you guys think? Level Up call is awesome. It's like quick, like training tips and then Q&A. Yes. Less like beginner questions, because I think that there are very different questions for launch calls and Level Up calls. Awesome. Okay, question from Mina. What 3 things would you recommend we should do immediately for branding? Visibility challenge, visibility challenge, visibility challenge. I'll be putting some more that aren't just video related, but visibility challenge. That's like all I can say. So to find the visibility challenge, we've been working to make sure that we're hashtagging all the visibility challenges, and they're pretty good. The only tough thing with video is once I hit post, I have to wait for the photo or the video to upload, and then I forget to hashtag it. So if you see a visibility challenge post or video, please feel free to hashtag it with visibility challenge, and then you can search for that in the group. So awesome. All right, guys, I'm going to let you all go. I have to get ready for my client call and hopefully get some food. I've got some weird cravings going on. I'm so excited. At least I'm hungry, but I'll talk to you all later. Bye, SMU. Let's go level up.